Good morning, traders. This is Perry Wilkie with StartupTrading.com. It is 12 minutes till 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday, October 17th. So, looking back at yesterday's action, right, I was looking for an upward bias in the morning, and that really did not play out whatsoever. Right, we had a couple retracements and some legs up, but it was basically just straight down. And I gave you a little bit of a blueprint as well. And forgive me for not saving the right one, but the blueprint was that the VIX, and Jack pointed this out on his live stream yesterday as well. Uh, the VIX, if it stays inside, right, you're probably going to stay more inside and not go to a trend, right? And I said Tuesdays and Thursdays have a little bit higher probability to be a trending day than the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. For whatever reason, that's just the way it is. It doesn't mean the other days don't trend sometimes because they do, but on balance, more of the trending days happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays for whatever reason. Um, so what I said was if the VIX gets above yesterday's high and stays above yesterday's high, right, you should start going down and vice versa. If it stays below yesterday's low and keeps going down, you should stay uh, above the previous day's high in the indexes. And, it's the whole chicken and the egg thing, right? Does the VIX move because of price or does price move because of the VIX? You can argue that to the end of days. And, I can't, you know, it's just one of those things that it is what it is. But today is OPEX. I will tell you one thing that OPEX can move, right, either way, volatility, without the VIX confirming, right? That is a problem with technicals. Trading technically on OPEX day just because the market maker is moving so much money around, right? They got to make sure mama has a new pair of shoes uh, for the weekend, and they're not going to, be borrowing money for those shoes. So looking at the overnight action, right, we have swept through all these lows, and then miraculously, right, we're back to unchanged. The point of control for yesterday is 66.69.5. So just remember 66.70. Uh, and then uh, after the initial balance is set, right? Are you above that or are you below it? And then do you maintain above or below it? That's what that's a key read. Um, you can get whitewashed across, meaning it's not significant. You just keep ranging back and forth. But more days than not, it is significant. So keep that in mind. So one thing I'm still looking at, right, is we come down to this 65.80 in the overnight, right? That's what we finally touched in the ES, right? And we've lifted off of that. Obviously there's some congestion between 67.12 and let's just call it 64.40, 66.40, 66.40 to 67.12 is where the congestion is. So that's what you want to see if you turn through or if it's just still overhead supply at this point in time after, that lower test in the overnight, right? And then uh, for the Nasdaq, the same thing. Swap those lows in the overnight, come out, and that congestion really goes up to. You got two stages here, right? I'm gonna go ahead and box this out so you can see what I'm talking about, because sometimes it's hard to follow the pointer. But you've got congestion here, right? And you've got congestion here, right? So in between those, right? If you were gonna be the dick, right? You would park price right here, which would be right around 25K uh, at the end of the day, right? You wouldn't make these people happy, and you wouldn't make these people happy. Uh, so, what dissatisfies the most amount of people, right? What price dissatisfies the most amount of people? It would be that. With that being said, we'll continue to uh, watch and see. So that's just a scenario to watch if we do get up. And I would say there's probably room to not sweep yesterday's session high, but to get up to 25,144 profile wise. But you can see these previous highs right around this 25K is going to be your first test. And that's if you can maintain above, uh, I would say, look at the high and you can mark it off from September 16th, right? You really need to maintain prices above. So that would be like 24, 660, let's call it. Uh, Looking at the overnight, right? We've tested lower in all of them, and notice on both the Nasdaq and the ES, and this happens quite a bit, especially in the overnight session. We went down to the one-day expected low end of the range by Toss's calculation, right? We swept under that, but look at since once we recrossed it about 5 a.m., that's been support. The same thing happened with the ES, and we're basically just slightly under unchanged right now. There is let me look at volume on my other screen here. Uh, Overnight volume is high. We have 462,000 contracts in the ES and 202,000 in the NASDAQ. So volume is significant in the overnight range. And, this uh, volume was to the downside, basically. And now that we're unchanged, there's a lot of, it's probably about 2 times higher to 2.5 times higher the volume that we normally get in an overnight session. So, and we still have 35 minutes before the opening bell. So I would say what I would like to target if we continue to trend upside. My first targets to the upside would be these blocks from the breakdown yesterday, right? These fair value gaps, these single prints. And that's again right around that 25,000 marker. So I think that there's a decent possibility that that trades for multiple reasons today. And then that would be right around 67 12 for the ES. And again, we'll see if we get up there or not. You can see that when we broke down in the overnight session, just above unchanged at 66.75 and just above unchanged here is, right around where this overnight high is. And we just set one in. We just swept the high for the ES but did not for the Nasdaq. I don't think it's too significant at 8:55, 9 a.m. in the morning. Uh, about something to be aware of. Uh, so I don't think uh, I would think that you could 66.27 is a split in the auction, and that's just below yesterday's bell low. This area right in here will be a key if we do break down again. I want to see how long we stay below this level or if we don't trade below that level. That's going to be significant for me. And I would say for the NASDAQ, I don't even, I'm not even going to put the 24,557 on here, 24,557. I'm not even going to put that on the table at this point in time, but uh, I think you can just watch the ES really. So let's get into positioning. So today is OPEX, which means that these positions have been on and off. They've been building for over a year, right, on this for today. Uh, or 8 or 9 months at least, because this is just a monthly. But what you've got and what I want you to pay attention to is that these numbers, right, for today's expiration are as big, right, each of these levels, as they are for all of next week added up together, right? So there's a lot of juice going on today. And there's actually, I don't note it in here and I don't put them on, but there's actually two expirations. There's an expiration at 9:30 in the morning for the cash indexes, and then there's an expiration at 4 o'clock. I don't list the AM expiration, but it is something to be aware of. That's coming out in 30 minutes here, and then but what I want you to see is, basically it's these large gamma areas right on the 50s for the cash market. And you can see there's a little bit of congestion between 67.10 and 67.30, really centered around, 25 to 30 on 67. So as we look at that, and the cash market closed at 66.30 yesterday, so it closed right around here. We're about 10 points down. I didn't look at to see what the offset was between the cash close and the futures close, but let's assume it's around the same. So we're, you know, uh, right in that 67.20 area. I'm sorry, 66.20 area, which would be right in here, right? So uh, I don't think this is, any type of a position, but you got 67 or 66.20 to 66.30, and you got 67.20 to 66.30 with 66.50 and 6700 in between. And for today, your pin, right, which would make the market makers the most amount of money, would be pinning near 6700. And that would be about 70 points higher than the cash settled yesterday. Looking at the SPY, uh, you've got the SPY is currently trading 660 even after closing just a little over 660 at 660 and 64 cents. So we are right here on the cash. You can see that 50 points down should be your floor. It doesn't mean it will be, but there's a high probability that would be your floor. And to the upside, 670 would be your ceiling for the day. So 655 to 670. And again, we're trading 660 right now. There's a little bit of gamma there. And there's not, there's a little bit more leeway between 660 and 665 to kind of float than there is for anything else. And there is a little bit more juice right at 668 compared to some of these other in between sets. And then looking at the Qs, again, I mentioned this yesterday. Uh, for a pen, right, this would be at 590. If you're going to fall out of bed and really just have a smoke show to the downside with the VIX one time framing higher and just one time framing down on a nasty drawdown, you have to get below 590. We're currently trading almost 600. Well, we're trading 598 right now after getting up under 600 last night. So we're right here at 598 as I speak. We did get down to 590 yesterday, or I'm sorry, in the overnight session. We traded 590 and 11 cents in the overnight session. So, and then we've come back up almost to 600. That's a 400 point range. Um, so as we look here between there, 597, 598 is kind of a little bit of a congestion area. And then above 600, if you can get it, there's really not a lot uh, of positioning, right, until you get to 605. And then 610 would be, a large gamma for next week, and 615 has a little bit more than 610, but I don't think that's in play for today. So I would, to be honest with you, I'd say that, high probability is that you stay between 595 and 605, and we're at 598 right now. So as we look at where we are at with positioning. The call wall, the long-term call wall is still at 600, but for today, the the call wall is 610, and for next week, it's at 615. So this isn't the end all be all between 590 and 600. So uh, we'll see if we end up breaking out of that range again. That's going to be right around 24,000 probably 825 to 830 would be right around where that call wall is. You can see the overnight, that was overhead resistance in the overnight session. And again, we come down and traded that 590 in the overnight and back up. And we're trading, above the VWAP now. And notice that this was just a relentless uh, surge back up towards the unchanged area of the charts. Uh, for the SPY, right, you've got that large gamma at 660. And then you've got really the 1 day expected move was right around that overnight lows, right where you saw that leg start up from, basically, for both the NASDAQ and the ES. I hope this helps. Uh, Kind of be fluid. And remember, yesterday, it took about, I don't know, 90 minutes before it showed its face, right? And keep in mind, because it's OPEX, you might not see the VIX confirming price action. It's not going to be as technical. Uh, there's less chance it's going to be as technical today as it was yesterday because it's OPEX today. And that can make it a little bit more difficult if you're using that as, confirmation. Um, it's not always that way, but keep in mind if you're watching it, uh, price is king, especially with your stops. I hope this helps. We'll see what Jack's looking at next. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday.